Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council members, city officials, and our streaming audience. I would like to welcome everyone to the August 14th City Council meeting. We have 7 items on our agenda this evening, and we're meeting here in chambers open for public attendance and streaming live on YouTube. Moving forward, if you would, Ms. Moss, please continue with the roll call of our members.
Thank you, President Geringer. Greg Phillips.
I am here.
Payne.
Here.
Nickerson.
Here.
Barnes.
Here.
Henderson.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Preston.
Here.
Anthony Phillips.
Here.
Kroll.
Mr. Pearl will not be here tonight.
Do we have a motion to excuse Mr. Prohl from tonight's meeting? I have a motion from Mr. Brown, seconded by Mr. Greg Phillips. Roll call on the motion to excuse Mr. Prohl.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
Nickerson.
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes.
Henderson.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
The motion passes. At this time, if you would, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. The minutes of the previous meeting have been distributed for review. Do we have any additions or corrections to the minutes? And if not, do I have a motion to accept the minutes as they are? Motion by Ms. Payne, seconded by Dr. Tony Phillips. Roll call on the motion to accept the minutes.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
Nickerson.
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes.
Henderson.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
The minutes have been accepted. We will now move to reports of our committees. We'll begin with Community Affairs Committee. Mr. Greg Phillips.
Thank you, President Geringer. We have no agenda items on this evening's legislation slate. However, Community Affairs did meet at 6:45, as previously announced, to discuss an agenda item potentially for the future concerning a TREX, which is, in short, just a moving or reallocating of a liquor license to a local business coming into Chiillicothe. And so we met on that. There were no issues with what we saw and what we researched. And so we'll be moving that on to the law director hopefully this week to have on a future agenda. With that, that is the entirety of Community Affairs this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to Human Resources Committee. Ms. Payne.
Thank you, President Geringer. Human Resources, we do have a new assignment 23-082, and that is a Health Board nomination. I would like to call a meeting for next Monday evening. That is Monday, August 21st at 6 p.m. here in Council Chambers. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Moving next to Development Committee. Ms. Nickerson.
Thank you. Development has nothing on the agenda tonight, and therefore we have nothing to report. Thank you.
Next to Finance Committee. Dr. Tony Phillips.
Thank you, Council President. Finance has nothing on the agenda, but we did have 2 committee meetings tonight. Both standard kind of annual things this time of year that we do. One was to appropriate money, moving it from one line to the next in the same fund to pay for salaries and fringes. That was moving forward. And also for appropriating $50,000 in additional funds to meet our tax refund requirements. And that was also moving forward. And that's all Finance has. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to Parks and Recreation and Tourism Committee. Dr. Henderson?
Thank you, President Geringer. Parks, Rec, and Tourism has one item on tonight's agenda as a second reading for an ordinance accepting and appropriating the 2023 AARP Community Challenge Grant funds. Part of this money goes toward the Sixth Ward Park and various other community activities. And then we had a very brief committee meeting this evening on the naming of the brand new Sixth Ward Park. And the proposed name is the Patrick Park, after Mrs. Pat Patrick, the former councilwoman who so graciously donated the land that has now become the Sixth Ward Park. And that is all I have this evening. This week we have a couple of different meetings coming up. The Tree Commission will meet tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock, I believe, at the Shelter House by the lake. And then same location Wednesday night will be Parks and Rec board meeting. Thank you.
Next, the Safety Service and Transit Committees. Ms. Preston?
Thank you, President Geringer. We have Safety Services has 4 items on the agenda tonight. They will be number 3, an ordinance accepting and appropriating $2,400 received from the Ohio Attorney General for training attended by Chiillicothe Police Officers Tactical Team and declaring an emergency. We have number 5, first reading of an ordinance accepting and appropriating $1,000 in funds donated by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources for the Chiillicothe Fire Department's Fish with the Firefighter event and declaring an emergency. And number 6, a first reading of an ordinance accepting and appropriating $1,065 received from the Ross County LEPC to cover the cost of the fire department's radio equipment purchase from BNC and declaring an emergency. And number 7, an ordinance allocating funds from the salary line of the Victim Witness Assistance Program grant and declaring an emergency. There are timelines on all of these issues, so I'm going to request a waiver of the 3-read rule at the appropriate time. We did have a committee meeting last week. We had the 4 items that I mentioned. We had committee meetings on those. We also had a committee meeting on indigent burial or indigent defense agreement. That has been sent over to the law directors and should be on the next agenda. That is for the year of 2024. It's 2024 agreement and ordinance authorizing the mayor to sign the agreement on behalf of the city with the county commissioners for indigent defense. We also met in regards to safe haven safe haven baby boxes, the possibility of placing those first and foremost in the fire department on Water Street and then the fire department on East Main Street to begin with. There are some organizations that want to donate the funding for the placement of those boxes, so we're going to be doing some more discussion on that item. And then the last item that we had in discussion was the special committee, the city-county jail partnership. That was agreed, or some decisions were made that evening that the mayor would be discussing those items with the county commissioners and the county auditor and continue those discussions with the city-county jail partnership. One of the requests that the sheriff made were parking spaces on the city lot on the back of the Elks. That's going to be reassigned in an assignment, as well as some possibility of a waiver of their water bill, and that'll go to utilities. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Utilities and Engineering Committee. In the absence of Mr. Prohl, do any members of those committees have items to report?
Council President, I'm going to report on those. Engineering has 1 item. It's number 2. It's a first read. It's an ordinance accepting and appropriating $38,000, $154.37 received from Public Entity Risk Services of Ohio for repairs to a damaged traffic control box and equipment at the intersection of Bridge Street and Main Street, and declaring an emergency. We'll be asking to waive the 3-read rule at the appropriate time. Utilities has number 4, on the agenda. It is a first reading as well. It's an ordinance appropriating funds to reimburse an applicant's overpayment for a utility tap fee and declaring an emergency. And again, we'll be asking to waive the 3-read rule on that one at the appropriate time. And that's all I have to report on his behalf.
Thank you. From there, we'll move on to reports of our officials. Our mayor, Mr. Luke Feeney.
Thank you, President Gallagher. I want to comment on one item tonight in particular, which is item 4. To briefly summarize, and I think this has been covered already, but essentially somebody paid a deposit of significantly more money than they were required. And the only way for us to refund that money was so much is that we have to appropriate that money back. And they've been, I think it's been a little while since they've made that. So I would just encourage waiver of the 3-read rule on item 4 tonight so we can get that customer reimbursed. And then the other items that are on tonight, I support. Just a few items to run through briefly in terms of city business. It feels like we just finished the budget cycle, but today I met with department heads and the auditor, and we are getting back into the budget cycle. So just as a refresher, what we'll do is the department heads will each kind of go over their individual departments. I encourage them to focus on their capital list items first. Largely operating expenses are highly personnel driven to the tune of something like 80 or 90%, and that's a joint project with the auditor's office in terms of salary and payroll. But I think probably within 2 weeks or so, the auditor's office will put out the request forms to the department heads. Department heads start getting their requests in. I meet with them, or we meet as a team, and then once their requests are finalized is essentially when they start having the individual meetings, finance committee type meetings with city council. So we're post-fair, summer's ending, and time to get into budget season. I just want to also give an update on, there's a committee assignment related to IT for this building. We generally try to get 3 quotes for just about anything we try to do. And we have struggled to get 3 quotes for the upgrades to this, the cameras and that sort of thing. We have the possibility of replacing 1 camera, and a local vendor is working with us on that. And then we have 2 other vendors who are leaning into replacing the entire camera system, which is more like $30,000 or something like that. So I just want to report on that because I know our IT folks have been working on that, and I got that update last week. So I encourage them, as I do with the department heads, if we are not able to get 3 quotes, and just as a reminder, we must, under Ohio law, if a contract is over $50,000, we must get 3 bids. Under $50K, we still shoot for 3 quotes, and if we can't get 3 quotes, we document our efforts, essentially. So we should have something back in front of you soon. And on that note, I've noticed that the microphones are crackling or something like that. So if there hasn't been a ticket yet for that, I will put that in. Speaking of tickets, last week we kind of had a soft opening of our local C-Click Fix app, which is called Chiillicothe Fix It. Probably 4 or so years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we started we used an internal ticketing system. It was a little bit cumbersome to use, but in essence, internally we were able to create tickets and track tickets. And then what we've done is shifted to a system that works internally and externally. So essentially the public can submit tickets when they see a pothole or a traffic light out, that sort of thing. So that is live now as of today, public wide. The app is called Chiillicothe Fix It, and it is available like Apple, Android, and on the website for submitting tickets. So that is up and running. I've reported recently, I believe, that both the Bellevue and, well, we know paving has started, but the Bellevue bid did go through the second time we put it out. So that's a good thing. Both Bellevue and the general paving both came in as almost everything has in the last 2 years, higher than the original engineer's estimates. We have just enough to cover both, but I'll be coming back to council to ask for an appropriation to make sure we have enough clearance if there were any overruns or that sort of thing. So that committee assignment request will be coming soon. But the good news is it does look like Bellevue, we had one bid. We had something like 12 or 14 people pick up packets, got one bid on Bellevue, but it does look like we're going to get that done, which is a relief. And then finally, two notes of congratulations. One, we swore in three new firefighters today. They began today. One of them was somebody who was actually a city intern way back in 2019. So it's fun to see him make his way up through the department and into the fire department. So those two start their journey. I wish them well. It was a nice turnout for their swearing in today. And then my final note of congratulations is to the Chiillicothe Paints for their second consecutive Prospect League championship. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Now we move on to our auditor, Ms. Spetnagel.
I do not have anything on the agenda tonight, but I did want to announce a budget review on August the 28th at 6:30.
Thank you. Now to our law director, Ms. Villarreal.
Thank you. I am busy downloading Chiillicothe Fix-It app. It's very exciting, but I do not have a report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Now to audience participation. Council Rule 22 does limit each speaker to a 5-minute presentation. Total limitation of 15 minutes per any single subject. If you get to the point where you're getting close to 1 minute left, I'll try to indicate to you to summarize your presentation. Anyone who wishes to speak, we do need for our records your name and address.
I knew you were going to say that. My name is John Thacker. I reside at 990 Columbus Street, apartment 307 in Chiillicothe. As to the fair, I want to thank Kennedy Moss for giving me the that I needed to get through all 40 hours that I spent there. And I was able to spend that much time there in part because of Chiillicothe Transit giving me a ride there. I didn't have to go like this, thankfully. I love the fair. I saw Mrs. Payne. I saw Mrs. And some of you I did not see, but I'm sure you were there somewhere at some point. I had a blast. I got to meet a lot of people. I obviously talked to people that were not of the same party I'm in, but you learn from that sort of thing. So thank you for stopping by and saying hi. Also, I wanted to point out that I got more information. I think at the last council meeting I mentioned about the Ghost Walk coming up on September 23rd. It turns out that one of the actual stops will be this particular location here at 26 South Paint Street. And given how badly the microphones are working, perhaps that's part of the haunting that goes on here. We'll find out more about it on the 23rd. When you join me, it's only $10, and it's a fundraiser for the Halloween Festival, which is in October. They do say rain or shine, but you know, I've never recalled seeing a bad day on September 23rd. So we look forward to that. And I want to congratulate my 4th Ward council member representative for becoming a fur daddy. And you know what? Are you settled on PJ or is it Buster? Okay. And so congratulations. And thank you for rescuing an animal. Because, I wish I could do that as well. I live in an apartment, so I can't really, but yes, please.
Yeah, I really want to thank the Ross County Humane Society who helped me find my new best friend. They're great, and any support anybody can ever give them, whether it's just a nice comment or it's financial, they deserve it.
I didn't realize that's who it was, but you know what? You're cutting into my time. No, just kidding. I'm actually finished, so I will let this crowd behind me take over. Anybody else? No. Sure? Okay. Thank you.
We will now move to old business.
Before we
Oh,
move to
yes.
old business, I would like to ask that we move into executive session. Is this? Make a
Motion by Ms. Payne, seconded by Dr. Oh. Okay.
To discuss contract negotiations.
Motion by Ms. Payne, seconded by Dr. Henderson. Roll call on the motion to go into executive session to discuss contract negotiations. Roll call on that motion.
President Geringer, I would like to add to the executive session to discuss legal matters of the city with the law director as well in that executive session.
Roll call on that combined motion. There you go.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Motion passes. We are now in executive session.
And I'd like to add that they will be having a street zine at the Scioto Township Hall from 1 to 6 on Saturday. And we'll be going there right after the Pride Festival, at which Girl Song will be performing. And you know what? It's a must-have ticket in Chiillicothe for that weekend.
President Geringer, I make a motion that we resume regular council and end executive session.
Motion by Dr. Henderson, seconded by Ms. Payne. Roll call on the motion to end executive session.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson, Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Phillips, Anthony Phillips, sorry.
Yes.
The motion passes. We'll now move to old business. Does anyone have old business that they'd like to bring up this evening? Mr. Brown?
Thank you. I just brief update on the nonprofit funding committee. On Wednesday, August 2nd, we met for our first official review meeting. We didn't have any folks show up for review, so we took that time to plan for our next review date. That next review date will be Wednesday, October 25th at 5:15 in council chambers. We're only compelled to do that one meeting for the rest of the year, but we did want to make sure if anyone knows of any particular groups who might need a meeting before then. Specifically, I know we had a couple folks waiting for this process to play out. So any council folks or any folks working for the city or anyone who might be listening, if you do have those needs and it's time sensitive before October 25th, feel free to forward those requests to council, and we will do our best to call a special meeting to hear that case. Thank you.
Thank you. Participation and correspondence received by the clerk.
Thank you, President Geringer. I've not received anything.
Now to new business. Any new business at this time? We will now move on to legislation. We have 7 items on our agenda this evening. Ms. Moss, whenever you're ready, please start with item number 1.
Thank you, President Geringer. Item number 1 is the second reading of an ordinance accepting and appropriating 2023 AARP Community Challenge Grant Funds.
This item will move to our next agenda.
Item number 2 is the first reading of an ordinance accepting and appropriating $38,154.37 received from Public Entity Risk Services of Ohio for repairs to a damaged traffic control box and equipment at the intersection of Bridge Street and Main Street and declaring an emergency.
President Geringer.
Yes.
At this time, on behalf of Mr. Prohl and his engineering committee, I would like to make a motion to waive the 3-read rule.
Motion by Dr. Phillips, seconded by Mr. Greg Phillips. Roll call on that motion to waive the 3-read rule.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
Motion passes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
The ordinance passes. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is the first reading of an ordinance accepting and appropriating $2,400 received from the Ohio Attorney General's Office for training attended by the Chiillicothe Police Officers Tactical Team and declaring an emergency.
President Geringer.
Ms. Preston.
I'd like to make a motion at this time to waive the 3-read rule on this item.
Roll call by Ms. Preston, seconded by Dr. Henderson. Roll call on that motion.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Motion passes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
The ordinance passes. Item number 4.
Item number 4 is the first reading of an ordinance appropriating funds to reimburse an applicant's overpayment for a utility tap fee and declaring an emergency.
President Geringer,
Dr. Phillips?
at this time, on behalf of Dustin Prohl and his Utilities Committee, I would like to make a motion to waive the 3-read rule.
Motion by Dr. Phillips, seconded by Ms. Nickerson. Roll call on that motion.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
The motion passes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
The ordinance passes. Item number 5.
Item number 5 is the first reading of an ordinance accepting and appropriating $1,000 in funds donated by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources for the Chiillicothe Fire Department's Fish with a Firefighter event and declaring an emergency.
President Geringer, I'd like to make a motion at this time to waive the 3-read rule on this item.
Motion by Ms. Preston, seconded by Mr. Greg Phillips. Roll call on that motion.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
The motion passes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
The ordinance passes. Item number 6.
Item number 6 is the first reading of an ordinance accepting and appropriating $1,065 received from Ross County LEPC to cover the cost of the fire department's radio equipment purchase from B&C and declaring an emergency.
President Geringer, I would like to make a motion at this time to waive the 3-read rule on this item.
Motion by Ms. Preston, seconded by Dr. Henderson. Roll call on the motion to waive the 3-read rule.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
The motion passes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
The ordinance passes. Item number 7.
Item number 7 is the first reading of an ordinance reallocating funds from the salary line of the Victim Witness Assistance Program grant and declaring an emergency.
President Geringer, I'd like to make a motion at this time to waive the 3-read rule on this item.
Motion by Ms. Preston, seconded by Ms. Payne. Roll call on the motion to waive the 3-read rule.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston, Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Motion passes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Anthony Phillips, Preston,
Yes.
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Yes.
Barnes, Nickerson,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
The ordinance passes. Are there any additional items that need to be brought up at this time? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Motion by Ms. Payne, seconded by Mr. Brown. Roll call on that motion.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Motion passes. We are adjourned. Have a wonderful evening.